Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Potluck session 3.2. Potluck sessions include 3 presentations on diverse topics, followed by the opportunity to the audience to ask questions. My name is Sebastian Lange. I'm a project manager with UN Habitat's Planning, Finance and Economy section. I'm also focal point for climate change and environment with that section. I'm going to be your host for today. We're going to learn about 3 inspiring stories on flooding, on urban mobility, and on community scale adaptation from Bangalore, from Tehran, and from Manipal. Let us get inspired by local authority and by academic contributions, sharing how they are creating low carbon and climate resilient cities. Our first presentation today will be on participatory GOSM NetE for community adaptation. This is a assessment tool and strategy for implementation, which will be presented by colleagues from India, by Professor Mahua Professor Mahua Mukherjee, who is professor with the Department of Architecture at the India Institute of Technology at Roorkee. Mahua is also Secretary General to the South India Alliance for Disaster Resilience Institutions, SAADRI. Currently, she is a member with the UNDRR and the Gardi Board of Directors. Her graduate research includes interests in sustainable urban development towards risk resilience, including urban climate and climate responsive campus and housing design. Secondly, we have Professor Madhumita Chatterjee, who is professor and director at the Acharya Bangalore B School, School of Management in Bangalore. Madhumita specializes in organizational behavior and human resource management. She has worked extensively in the area of corporate school responsibility, corporate governance, and business ethics. Her work also covers cross-cultural management processes, business history, and Indian ethos and culture. So this is a pre-recorded session, but I would like to hand over now to Mahua and Madhumita to start this presentation. Over to you.
Greetings of the day. Me, Mahua Mukherjee from IIT Roorkee, India, and Professor Madhumita Chatterjee, Director ABBA School of Management, Bengaluru, will be presenting in front of you the participatory GeoSM NATI as the innovative product which can be utilized for the community adaptation towards the BGI integration. You can do the BGI assessment potential and the strategic implementation of the same. We are working with the platform of South Asia Alliance for Disaster Research Institutes, SADRI, and I am the SADRI Secretary General, as well as I am actually working on the working group 5, which talks about the nature-based solutions. I am the lead coordinator for SADRI working group 5. Whereas Madhumita, she is the lead coordinator of SADRI Working Group 4, who looks at the community participation and community resilience. So we are very much thankful to UN Habitat to choose our product, Participatory GeoSM NATI, for this particular conference on Innovate for Cities 2021. Now let us see what we can offer to all of you, especially in the urban risk side. The first thing we would like to talk about the STEM Air framework, which talks about strategic ecosystem monitoring, assessment, and BGI implementation based resilience. So it's a nature based solution, and we have tried to, through this framework, try to accommodate and facilitate further the nature based solution integration. So there is a particular geosemnati toolbox which we have developed from my lab in IIT Roorkee, that is geospatial data-based geospatial monitoring of natural elements. And this particular tool works with all the geospatial data, and based on those data, for spatio-temporal variation, we can be using this tool, we can get the NDVI, NDBI, NDWI, and we use all this information on GIS platform for the LULC change, for understanding the land surface temperature, for the urban flooding purpose, for the groundwater potential, recharge potential, and the air pollution, and definitely the change in the blue and green elements. So once we do the BGI implementation potential map, then we bring under this framework the solution basket for local level action planning. Then the stakeholder and the projectization implementation comes, and then the monitoring, assessment, and the feedback loop is being placed in this framework very firmly so that the BGI integration is not only one time, but it continuously keeps on improving. And I here acknowledge the DST IFE research project. And this is the Geosemnati tool, which is available in this IITR platform, where we put it in three different ways. The main report, it's also having a fact sheet, that what exactly it can do in brief, and the other one which is there, it is the do it yourself, so that anyone who is interested to use this geosemnati tool, they can do that. And we are going to have a publication very soon, we expect, working paper series in UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. Dr. Ravan, Shirish Ravan, is working with us, and we have been able to put it. Just an example I would like to bring, that what you can get out of, what product deliverable you can get out of Geosemnati. That is the, for the Chennai, you can see the decadal change into the land use land cover. We have done the NDVI, NDBI, NDWI, and you can also see the changes from this using this information. Where getting information is very difficult, Geosemnati toolbox can be very helpful because you use the geospatial data. So we have been able to come up with these figures based on the this particular type of spatial temporal mapping. And once you do that, then you have the solution basket as I was showing you previously. And all these solution basket elements can be helpful in many different places. So we try to seek the opportunity through physical survey and also through secondary survey, that which can be placed where. And based on this only, we have been very happy to also develop a living lab facility. And in this, we try to check the efficacy of the vegetation and soil to change, to control various things like water and the temperature, air pollution. The best part of this particular activity is that we got another project which is the solution based, and the local, this is for Gurugram, another city within the national capital region, and the Gurugram Metropolitan Development Authority, they are partner to us, and we are doing a Wazirabad Blue Green Infrastructure project, where we have tried to take advantage of our this vast experience of the previous project, including Living Lab. And when we came for this application, because it is a solution side, There we realize that Geosynati toolbox, if it has to really help the STEMIER framework properly, then STEMIER framework's other steps also need to be strengthened. So from that part only, I communicated with Professor Madhu Mehta that whether she comes from the stakeholder side a lot, so whether she can really bring some strong input into it, and we can go for instead of any normal geosync nati, can we make it a participatory? So the stakeholder consultation and the projectization implementation, as well as this monitoring, assessment, and feedback loop, can take advantage of this communication between the science, technology, engineering with the community people and the managers. And here, that is the product, that is the innovative product which we are offering in this platform, that is participatory geosync. And here I invite Professor Madhu Mehta to come in. Yeah, Madhu Mehta, Mohu on you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Mohua. Greetings from India to all the distinguished members and participants of this conference. As my colleague Dr. Mohua has already mentioned, that we are looking at building resilient communities by using this tool. So first and foremost, what I feel coming from the background of community resilience is, as N. Clark has explained very beautifully, that we have to move away from this probabilistic and worst case scenario planning that we have been doing traditionally and move towards a more possibilistic and futuristic predictive process. And this is where the tool that is being developed in IIT Roorkee is going to be extremely important to help us in building these resilient communities. While we do the prediction, we must remember that if we want the communities to get involved, we have to address all the social factors that actually increase vulnerability. Often these are overlooked because they are not visible and they are not continuously seen by people in and around who are not involved with the community. So that's an important factor that we need to find out. And for that, what are the factors I will show in the next slide. So disaster now is no more an isolated matter, and we have to look at innovative practices that would actually contextualize the social scenario, the smaller community aspects, to give us the resilient communities that we are looking for. Next slide. Yes. So to look at this integration of this technology, which we are talking about, to build in this participation of the community, what is my experience, having done a lot of campus to community projects along with my students and my colleagues, we find that the community gets involved only when we find the community leader. He is often invisible to the outsider because he is not someone who is probably politically influential or is having some is the richest man in the community. He's not that. He is a person who is highly respected and who has the power and the capability to actually motivate the community. And once we find the community leader, he becomes the greatest influencer. So this is the experience that I bring from my work in this area, that we have to locate the community leader who then becomes a member of our team and helps in promoting the community resilience concept. Now, we have to also involve formal organizations like NGOs, the local clubs, the schools, associations, religious congregations. But even here, what I have found is that the first mile worker in India, we have people like the ASHA workers or the Anganwadi workers who are actually relating to the most vulnerable section of the society. So they are the ones who have to be involved because they make a lot of difference while they communicate to the community. The community trusts them, and that building of the trust is very important for the community to feel confident enough to come and participate. Now, while doing this, one of the most important factors is how are we going to communicate? We often forget that the communication, the vehicle of the communication, and the language of communication is extremely important. Normally, today we find that they get their information from vernacular newspapers or flyers, or today, of course, the social media and the internet. But what is the language that is being used? We have to have a very lucid, very flowing, very understandable language, something which is not complicated for the common man to grasp. If we use technological terms too much, it goes beyond them, and then they lose total interest. So keeping their interest alive needs that we involve them. And this is where we also get what the community has been practicing, because every community has a wonderful system of resilience which we should not overlook. In fact, that has been developed over years and they are implementable and has been working well. So, this is where technology can join up with these other factors that the community has been practicing for so long, and that is where the traditional methods and the scientific methods can join hands and give us a wonderful participatory resilience system that will keep the sustainability alive always. Now, looking at the continuous information regarding the disaster risk, one factor that we have learned recently from the COVID structure is we must have this continuous flow of information that disaster risk is there, and we have to look at how to build the resilience. That information, that awareness has to be created on a continuous basis. It cannot happen only when the disaster is happening. Therefore, if we build a information flow chart, we will find that we first initiate the information, then we take the recommendations from the experts and the community leaders and bring it to the influencer who actually takes it to the decision maker, because the decision makers here are the community who will get involved with the scientists to give us the best way of building the resilient community. Next. So, how do we integrate this technology and this information into the community? So, the whole concept of getting trained in the skills of rescue, rehabilitation, and job opportunities. This will encourage the community to come and feel proactive. They would feel that they are part of the entire innovation that is coming to them. So, the concept of innovation
Hello, technical support. Can you hear me? Can anyone hear me in this session? Hello?
Yeah, you're clearly audible.
Okay. I've lost the recording here. I guess you also have lost it.
Yeah.
Mhm. I can see that our technical support has dropped out. No, technical support is still in. Technical support, could you help us with this problem? We have lost the recorded session.
of the urban risk, this mapping of the local scale risk would actually give the
Okay, I think it's coming back now. technical support. Sorry, everyone, we will just try to resolve the technical problem that we are having. I believe this will be done in the next 1 or 2 minutes. Just bear with us.
It is in the thick of the disaster that they find themselves and they don't find solution. But this tool will give the early warning and also the information for them to be able to be prepared and be ready. So the participation becomes a continuous process, and the monitoring can also be done in the continuous manner instead of ad hoc monitoring that we now find in the disaster risk areas. And the local capacity will be built up. So if we look at this again, the diagram back here, we find that the two important sectors are the stakeholder and the monitoring. And the most important factor is the influencer, the information flow system, and the contextualization while we are innovating together, and the language. These are the most important factors. Now, I would request my colleague again, Dr. Mohua, to conclude our entire presentation by talking about the our team as a whole. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Madhumita. I think Madhumita has very nicely brought up that what additional value is being added when we are really looking at the same tool, but from the participatory lens. So you can see that now the tool is very, very strong because we are talking about community influence, information, innovation together, and the communication language. So now let us conclude it by saying that this was possible, this dialogue was possible, and this actually made us bring this particular product, which is not only science or engineering tool, but also implementable so that the community can really not only make use of it, but internalize it, own it, because of this South Asia Alliance of Disaster Research Institutes platform, because that is the platform where Madhumita and me, being the lead coordinators for very two important um, uh, working groups, working group 4, that is the community, and working group 5, that is the nature-based solutions, and that is getting reflected into our participatory GeoSem NATI. Now, very briefly, let me introduce all of you to the SADRI, which is a South Asia specific focused organization alliance where people are coming from academics and research institutes, NGOs, and many other managerial organizations who are working into the disaster field. And it is really aiming to deepen the understanding of disasters in the region, because the region is the hard hit, including the climate change impact. We would like to learn from each other, knowing the neighbors are the best resilience because they are going to be the first responder. So investigating and resolving implementation challenges, sharing that information with each other, these are some of the things which SADRI is looking forward. Any one of you who are interested, please also have a look at this sadri.net, and you can always communicate to us, me and Madhumita. We are available. We are having also another 3 very strong working groups who looks at the geotechnical aspects and early warning, hydromet aspects and the early warning, and the critical infrastructure. So, which are all of these working groups are so very pertinent from the South Asia Resilience Mission. With this, we would like to conclude. Pranam from my side and Madhumita, and you can see that our emails are being shared. Thanking you. Hope that this participatory geosem nati as a product will be reaching people like anything. Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much also from my side. I believe this has been a very exciting first presentation, and I very much like the idea of using a community influencer, of putting that in between, the data collection and the decision makers in this decision-making level. I think this is a very, very interesting approach also for the co-design in the context of resilience building and adaptation of community involvement. I believe we'll have a very interesting round of questions later, where the audience to this session will also have the chance to address you directly. In the meantime, I would like to get over or hand over to the second presentation, which will be on urban flooding in coastal regions due to rapid urbanization, which is a case study from the west coast of India. And it will be presented by Professor Usma Khan, who is assistant professor at the School of Architecture in Bhopal, India. Usma is a conservation architect, and she teaches undergraduate and postgraduate students in the interdisciplinary fields of architecture, construction, and history. She presently presented a paper at the 17th International Forum, La Vie dei Marcanti, I believe, organized by the Benecon University Consortium, the UNESCO Chair on Landscape, Cultural Heritage and Territorial Governance at Italy, and has published several papers in the field of cultural heritage and pedagogy. Her research expertise are urban conservation, heritage management, cultural landscape, and heritage studies. This is going to be also a pre-recorded session. I would like to invite Professor Khan now to start her presentation. Over to you. There seems to be a small technical problem. Could you please let us know if you would be able to start it now? We can also move to the next presentation and then take you after that. If you want to resolve the technical problem first, please advise. Can you please?
We are facing little problem with the PPT presentation. I think the next session or the next presentation can happen. Will resolve in between.
Okay, excellent. Good, then we'll do this. So then I have the privilege to present our third presentation, which will be on urban mural and restrict street through cars, which is a case from the Badro al-Zaman Garib Street, I believe in Tehran. It will be presented by Mayor Said Mustafa Musavi, who is the mayor of District 9 municipality in Tehran. Meher Mousavi holds a doctorate in business administration with the University of Bordeaux, a master's of urban design with the University of Tehran, and a bachelor of architecture with the Shahid Beheshti University. As mentioned, Saeed Mustafa Mousavi is the mayor of District 9 municipality in Tehran. He is also director of General Administration Supervision and Follow-up of Regional Affairs. He is advisor to the Deputy for Regional Affairs of the Tehran municipality, and he also holds a number of executive positions in the private sector and in philanthropy. Some of that with the private sector was in the past. And Meher Mousavi will present in person. I would like to give the floor to you, Meher. Please go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I should share my screen if it is possible.
Please go ahead.
Thank you.
Yes, it's coming through. We see it here.
I should full screen. Okay.
Yeah, it's there. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, very much.
Thank you. I'm Mustafa Mousavi, as Sebastian said. Nice to meet you. I want to talk about a project, a successful project in Tehran, urban mural restricted street through cars in Badroz Zaman Qarib Street. I'll touch in some steps. The first step is about some sustainable street examples. Public concerns usually focus on predictions of affecting the amount of road space available to private cars. Taking capacity away from the dominant road user is a brave decision for an authority to take, and we try to do this. As you see in the table, there are some streets in the world that have some lanes for community, for movement, for ecology, and if the lanes for community and ecology be more, we can practice the street as sustainable street. You can see in this picture, instead of wide, noisy streets in and out of the city and the necessary underground parking spaces, we should have been pedestrianized and improved them, so the area has become more attractive, also less accessible for the motorists. If we close the lanes of the street to vehicles, we can have very better street, as you can see. And we have some challenges. This picture presented contributions that urban street design can make to achieving sustainability goals. For well over a decade, street design practice has been responding to changing ideas and values expressed in movement, such as thinking beyond the pavement, livable communities, and complete street. You can see some challenges in this picture. For example, equity in some big and wide cities like Tehran. You know Tehran has more than 9 million population, and we have problem and challenges with equity, for example, air pollution, some energy consumption, and some problem like this. The Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, or global goals, are a collection of 17 interlinked global goals designed to be a blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. The SDGs encapsulate a basic idea policies to ensure inclusive and sustainable development need to integrate social, economic, and environmental aspects. These are the something that we try to notice in our project. Our project, as I said before, is in Iran, Tehran, capital of Iran, and it's in Badr Zaman Qarib Street. This street is a new street that built among historical military base in Tehran. That this military base was out of Tehran some decades ago, but now it is in the middle of the city, and this street goes among this street, and it is very important because there is no window, no buildings inside of the street, and it is just some pavement. You can see the street when you were building it. These are some pictures about executive operations. After that, we have a street that have some lane for pedestrian, for bicycle. But the most important things that I should say in this street we have done was, as you can see, we have 4 lanes for vehicles, but we close 2 lanes and we just do something that I want to talk about them. Something in these lanes, and it's a street with 2 lines now for vehicles and 4 lines or 4 lane or maybe 6 lane for the bicycle and pedestrian. You can see it's some pictures about the street before and after building. We try to participate people when we restrict this street through cars with the urban designers and participation of the citizen. We could find urban mural that I want to say in this presentation. Well, one technique for making this street friendly for pedestrians is public arts. Currently, mural art and the use of color have also become popular as a branch of public art in cities, but the low presence of urban designers in the process of drawing a mural has created works that are not in harmony with the environment and make visual pollution in public space, but we try to do this better. Creative locations become a key element of human-centered design strategies and develop innovative services based on intellectual property. We try to do in this project. We have chosen to close street local lanes to cars through the use of murals, which have improved our participation with people in a sustainable way. Thus, in Badr Zaman Qarib Street, which was carried out as part of a participatory design research project with the Region 9 municipality, we have explored mural art may be a way for this street to develop sustainable, creative, mural-based participation. You can see some dwellers who painting on the street. We have used the place check and identity technique through in-person interview to strengthen the collaboration between people and city leaders, because we want to have something in participatory. The pathway to participatory urban design. The first one, car-free day. Second one, lonely tree. Autumn notes, painting on the ground, and urban gallery. I try to talk about these 5 steps. As I said before, car-free day with participation of dwellers. We in lanes that we close to the cars, we call dwellers to paint on the street. We have an old car in the street, and people try to paint flowers on it, flowers on the street, because it was about nature. As you know, Tehran was some decades ago had many trees, and it now most trees are not in the city, and the buildings and the pavements, the streets are in this place. We want to show the importance of nature, and we use the bicycle. I am in this picture with the people who like bicycle, and we try to use bicycle at that day. The second performance was lonely tree. The tallest tree of the street has a shadow, and at the morning, and some visual artists try to paint the shadow of the tree on the street. And we have this shadow always on the street. It is for showing, it was for showing the importance of the trees in the city, and also the nature in our cities. Then the third one was autumn notes. As you can see, we use trees leaves, and we call the musician to play music in the street when people are walking on these leaves in the autumn, and it was very exciting for the people. But as you know, it was COVID-19, and we couldn't advertise and gather the people. Just some people try to stop and see this program. You can see some people and children in this picture. Then the fourth was painting on the ground. It was the participation of children, and children tried with some mentors try to paint on ground of the street, 2 lanes that I said before, 2 lanes that close to the cars, and it was very exciting for the children to have participating in changing their street and their neighborhood. And you can see some paintings of children in the street. And the last one was urban gallery. As I said, this street is among the old military base, and the side of the street there aren't any building, any houses, any shops, and we have just some wall some concrete wall. We call the visual artists, and in every wall was some board for them to paint something on this. And we have now more about 100 painting on the street, and it is a gallery. We call it the urban gallery, and some artists, some people just go to the street to see these paintings. You can see some of them in this picture. There are about 100 paintings, and it is very beautiful in the street. About participation, we try to participate doers in car-free day, visual artists in lonely tree, musicians in autumn notes, children in painting on the ground, and visual artists in urban gallery. This project was become successful because we try to respond to these questions. What do we need to? What is financial context of our city? What is our initial participatory strategy? What are the benefits of our sustainable projects, barriers and hurdles, steps for implementation? These questions and the response to these questions help us to do this project or projects. And as a result, acknowledging that sustainable change can only be achieved when communities have an active role in the process. The project focused on mitigating the car's footprint versus increased social collaboration and establishing new ideas. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for everyone who helped me in this presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor Musavi. I think this was a very interesting, exciting presentation, showing also the artistic side of urban design. And I mean, the one interesting thing, the lone tree, it's a very beautiful way of showing the importance, underlining the importance of green public spaces. I also believe that the pandemic, which is still ongoing, has also underlined the role of public spaces. When people want to go out, they want to do recreation outside under the fresh air. And many cities actually do not have quality public spaces, and people don't benefit from this. So I think it's a very nice initiative from various points of view. I mean, doing the modal shift away from the car to bicycle lanes, and also creating art in the city. I'm from Berlin, and we actually have a similar thing in town, which is called the East Side Gallery, which is part of the former Berlin Wall, which is painted all the way along. So it's actually quite famous. Yeah, so very interesting. I hope we'll have also a number of good questions from the audience later. And thank you for your presentation here. I wanted to go back to our colleagues from Bhopal, Professor Khan and her team. Are you able to share the presentation now? Please.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll share the screen. Yeah.
Okay, yes, please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Is it visible?
Yes, we can see the presentation. I think you need to start the presentation also.
Yes, I'll start the presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Excuse me, there is no audio at the moment.
Sorry.
Mhm. Is this going to be like you're going to present live? Yes.
Is it not audible?
No, you started the presentation, but there was. I think you need to press the play button below there. Yes, try this.
Is it visible?
A very
Audible
warm
now?
good morning to one and all present
Yes.
here in the August Forum. Today, me and my colleague, architect Tanya Verma, and myself, architect Uzma Khan,
Okay, sorry, this is not yet optimal. I
s-
think please try
a very
again
warm good morning.
if you go up in the screen on your screen, and you have on the upper left-hand side the save button, and then the third icon to the right on your upper left side screen. There is a play in symbol. I can see that above the insert button.
Plain background.
No, up. Very much up. The first, yeah, further left. Yeah, stop.
Present here in the August Forum.
Yeah,
Today,
yeah,
me
exactly.
and my
But
Is it audible now?
it is audible, yes, but you would need to also start the presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
colleague, architect Tanya Verma, and myself, architect Uzma Khan, will be presenting a very warm good morning to one and all present here in the August Forum.
It's okay now. Thank you. I think you need to keep your microphone on. Tanya, please keep your microphone on.
A very warm good morning to one and all present here in the
Very good.
August Forum. Today, me and my colleague, architect Tanya Verma, and myself, architect Uzma Khan, will be presenting our case study on the urban flooding in coastal regions due to rapid urbanization. The case example we have picked up is the West Coast cities in India. In the Indian subcontinent, the western coastal cities are a conglomeration of Konkan, Canara, and Malabar coast respectively. The urban flooding in the past few decades has been a major cause of concern considering the climatic actions over here. Erstwhile, western coast of India is very rich with the natural resources in the form of the glue and green fabric of the environment. But the recent advancements and the inaction of urban policies in harmony of the natural systems have been taken into consideration for the study. In our example, what we have highlighted over here are the issues, challenges, which leads to these adversities and the effects on demographics, land use, transportation, linear infrastructure, and the economy. The United Nations Sustainable Development Goals has enlisted climate action as the 13th goal of the 17 major goals to be addressed by 2030. Our study is an example to highlight the major cause of concerns and an attempt to map the extent of the challenges imposed by the regions and to suggest mitigation strategies and recommendations for the same. The interdisciplinary studies and the studies further can take forth the policies, stakeholder management, technology, and blending framework into consideration. Flash flooding and coastal flooding with river outflows and all these other challenges over the past few years have been of major cause of consideration. The issues, particularly of heavy precipitation and floods, indicate that climate change is here to stay. The gradual advancements somewhat have recently occurred in a lot more quantity than otherwise anticipated. Thereby, the criteria of assessments and other allegations for study and quantifications also presume the rapid rate at which the same can be taken into consideration for further studies, cultural mapping, and for the safeguarding of people and sustainable future henceforth. As you can see in the illustration, India, a land of diverse culture, is also varying in its form of geographical locations and formations. A large part of the country is surrounded by the Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal. In our illustration, you can clearly see the western coast, which is a combination of the Konkan coast, Malabar coast, and Kathiawar coast, starting right from the run of Kutch. And on the other side, Coromandel Coast, Andhra Coast, and Ulkai Coast in the eastern coast plain comprises of the coastal region of the entire area. In our context of the climatic countries consideration and the advancements which have taken place over time, the most highlighted version over here will be the threat by the rising sea levels, which are very recent. And as per the predictions, India comes in the most populous state of the entire world, where approximately 10 to 15 billion of people are calculated to be affected by the same. So these rising sea levels, flash flooding, urban flooding, are very necessary in order for us to understand so that mitigation strategies can be proposed for the same. Now here, let's have a look at what is urban flooding. Urbanization, which leads to developed catchments, increases the flood peaks from 1.8 to 8 times and the volumes of the same up to 6 times. So in a nutshell, flooding occurs very quickly at a rapid rate. Storm surges can also affect coastal cities and towns. Urban heat island effect has resulted in increased precipitation in recent decades over the urban areas. The global climate change is also resulting in a change in weather patterns and increased episodes of high intensity rainfalls occurring in very short periods of time. The threat of sea level rise, as discussed earlier, is also looming large. The cities and towns which are located on the coast, on the riverbanks, upstream, downstream of dams, and inland cities are all affected. The encroachments are also a major threat in various cities and towns. The natural seams and water courses have thousands of years in formation, resulting in the respective watersheds are also a major cause of concern. Habitations have started growing into towns and cities alongside these rivers and water bodies. As a result, the flow of water has increased directly to proportion to the urbanization of these watersheds. Other man-made factors such as improper disposal of solid waste, including the commercial and industrial waste and dumping of construction debris into the drains, is also contributing to the same. In our trends, as you can see, the degree of urbanization in the past 1 decade over the years, starting from 2010 to 2020, has seen a marginal increase in the urban population. Hence, it can be understood very well that the population on the land, economics, social, and cultural infrastructure has increased. Thus, we have to take into consideration all of these factors when discussing urban flooding. There are various factors contributing to urban flooding, such as meteorological factors, hydrological factors, and human factors. Meteorological factors such as rainfall, cyclic storms, small scale storms, temperature, snowfall, snowmelt, and other causes of precipitation are all natural factors. But the same has shown a significant increase due to climate change and other aspects. Hydrological factors such as soil moisture, groundwater level, the natural surface infiltration rate, presence of impervious cover, channel cross-sectional shape and roughness, presence of absence of blank flow, synchronization of runoffs, and high tide impeding drainage. Now, these factors are also major cause of concern and are a result of man-made factors such as impervious cover, which is also a result of rapid urbanization and uncontrolled development taken place in these areas. Human factors such as land use changes resulting in increased runoff and sedimentation, accumulation of floodplain and obstructive flows, inefficiency of infrastructure, efficient drainage of upstream areas, which increases the flood peaks and thereby the frequency. Climate change affects magnitudes and frequency of precipitation, urban microclimate, and all these things, such as indiscrimination or segregation of weight and unmanaged disposal, all these things, when combined together, gives us a holistic standpoint and a view of understanding the reasons responsible for flash flooding and urban flooding in these areas. So here we can have a look at the common features. Depression and cyclones at rapid rate on the western coast of the country have been a major cause of concern and have been occurring very frequently. We can also understand the high amount of precipitation in these areas which has increased. So the statistical understanding of the entire area and the indication in the legend, we can have a basic understanding that precipitation in recent years have increased at a rapid rate. Now, in the third image, we can see the topographical variation. So the situation of Western Ghats near the water body has also resulted in other things such as landslides and soil erosion and all the natural resources being at a larger threat. The ecological hotspots are also occurring on this coast. So, in order to propose strategies and in order to have a better understanding of what can be done to manage all these disasters and the risk which they threat, we need to have bigger view of what is happening in and around this area in the past decade. Study of forest cover of Western Ghats. Western Ghats is the west coast and it covers almost six coast states, which is Kerala, Maharashtra, and Gujarat, and is facing a massive ecological disturbance like never before. Plants are very not only coastal cities and towns, but even in the Western Ghats. So you can see that the green cover has drastically changed from 1973 to 1990 to 2004, and around 7% of from Western Ghat has been deteriorated, and that plays a very important role as it brings the landslides, and more of water gets flown towards the cities, which directly or indirectly brings the situation of floods in the hill foothills as well as the urban areas. Predictions of 2020. So this study also shows that the predicted evergreen forests have been reduced from 1990 till the predictions of 2020 by almost 20%. Especially for the Western Ghats region, catering for the inland as well as the western west coast cities for the fresh water requirement. And no longer consider the crisis as a region specific problem. It's a question. So, one bits of should keep focusing on Western Ghats, Western Ghats, and unfortunately, pollution, water mismanagement, rivers like Kaveri, which is almost as it's high time for the details development is required. Such kind of sensitive areas and development or settlements which are dependent on resources.
station might station might unsuitable scientific sloping of hills for construction of such kind of interventions have like of landslides. And this is by ISRO, Space Research Organization. Since its center show that 35% of the original Western has been destroyed in 1920s. So what happens? Such kind of issues now. Flooding. Small cities now. So like we have example. Every after every day it's flooded. And so is happening in the smaller towns now, getting affected by the western by the destruction of the western Ghats. Thousands of houses were damaged. Just for lands submerged and submerged. As a result of it, landslides happened and also disrupted transportation. Disrupted interstate disrupted. So this is for most flood versus this is visual for is and so when flash floods or when water cloudburst, when anything happens, so coastal cities are trying to spread the so these effects will be intensified concentration of population, high adaptability, more in that regions. So internal coastal cities, exceptions, high tide some regions, strategies, and so few of the recommendations also for the further is construction water channels or water bodies needs to be connected so like heavy rain it has capacity to take those water strong water. Then definitely regional drainage plan should be very helpful to understand this will help in building the fact that we should construction happening. Then also building capacity for setups is required. Technical assistance. Definitely there should be construction. Designating for the new generations. Also, by construction, then urban greens need to be retained not only solve also helps for this overall strong water strong water. So yeah, these are few of the options which can be considered cities or the small cities, small cities. It is useful. Right, but environment is whole.
Yeah, thank you very much for this presentation. Apologies to the audience for the audio quality. The second half or third of the last third of the presentation was not audible, but we were able to read the slides. Yeah, nevertheless, I think we were able to grasp this, yeah, the threat and risks that are currently felt in the coastal areas of India, especially on the east coast, in combination with storm surges, urban river flooding, and the impact of tropical cyclones that are felt there. And it also indicates a strong need for action and also, yeah, let's say a field of intervention which is at the nexus of rapid urbanization, rapid urban growth, and climate change on the other hand. Rapid urban growth, rapid urban extension, rapid urbanization is by large and uncontrolled, unplanned urbanization, and inherently with that comes also the problem that it is very difficult to build in measures to increase resilience or to adapt to climate change. So this is something that is perhaps very critical as we have an emerging climate crisis that we are going to feel in the next decades globally. But we also have the backdrop of rapid urbanization in many regions, and South Asia, India is one of the most rapidly urbanizing regions. So thank you very much for providing us with this insight into and this through research into this into the situation that you have there in Southeast India. Yeah, which brings us to the conclusion of the part of our session, which is covering the presentations. We have now the chance to invite the audience for questions. We are able to yeah, chat a little bit about the presentations that were given. So I wanted to invite the audience now to pose any questions that you have and direct them to any of the speakers, presenters. You can do so through the chat. So the floor is yours. Technical support, do we have any questions from the audience? technical support? Okay, there's no questions in this stage. Good. So I do have a few questions, and perhaps if any of the speakers, if you have a question that you would like to ask to any of the fellow speakers, you're also welcome to do so. Maybe I can just put a question to the last presentation to start with. You have explained a little bit the role of water bodies, runways, the mapping of river systems, etc. You have also briefly covered about the role of green spaces to allow the runoff to reach the water table. I wanted to ask what your views are on the question of surface sealing. How do you, I mean, are you perceiving this as an issue? Have you any sort of approaches or strategies to overcome it? And is there any move towards what may be referred to as a sponge city that is increasing the retention time of water from rainfall events, but potentially also from flooding, allowing the drainage into the ground and the avoidance of floods in certain areas when the water is basically drained off into the river systems. It at one point in time, then it creates flooding. If it is able to percolate in some areas before reaching the river system, it may be having a positive impact on the flooding. So this would be my question. If you, please, if you please go ahead, Professor Khan and Tanya.
Hello, Sebastian.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit confused with the you're talking about the spawn-city and the retention of the water which is required to be done while doing the development, right?
Yeah.
So your question is?
No, I wanted to ask if you can comment, like, if is this taken into consideration? Are you like, what is your position towards that?
Tanya, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Professor Khan, Tanya, would you like to address the question, or we maybe go to the next one?
Yeah, sure. I think she's facing some network issues. So if you're talking about policy implementation and other thing about spawn cities and talking about surface healing, currently there is no implementation in the legislation or policy making at otherwise. But if you're talking at stakeholder level discussions, another thing, of course, flood risk and understanding the flow of water in terms of installing extra drainage or keeping soft surfacing or pervious implementation in terms of the drainage patterns and other things of keeping softscaping in terms of hardscaping at certain points where the water table and other things can also be discharged in the to the fact that the surface drainage in these terms, because we're talking primarily about the western coast, so they also have western ghats which if you're considering the entire topography of the area, it is not like entirely flat. The terrain varies very drastically over there. So we have landslides and other issues also. And if you're talking about surface flooding and other things, so heavy in case of increased precipitation, especially in the months of monsoon, which is majorly outlooked, especially in the past 2-3 years, since the time we've been living here. So in case of the interdependence on all these things, especially in case of the urban heat island which is being created, and dependence on these overflowing water bodies, talking about runoff waters and other things, currently if you're particularly asking about what is being there in terms of strategizing, there are no policies or interventions as such. But in terms of mitigation and other things, if we are talking about the areas which are very near to the coast, especially the cities which are facing these threats, such policies or interventions, and talking about surface healing as a concept, these clearly needs to be more talked about, more discussed, and the same needs to be in accordance with all the laws and legislations. So we have to talk about the soil, we have to talk about the surface water, the groundwater contamination and other things as a process when we are talking about recovery after flooding. So of course these things are there at the conceptual stage, but at implementation stage, there's hardly anything in terms of restoration or the checklist that needs to be there. So very interesting question, Sebastian, thank you. But if
Yeah,
you're talking about all
also
these things, yeah, Tanya,
I
please go
would,
ahead.
yeah. Sorry, I was my internet was not very good. Yeah. So also we have a CRZ, coastal regulation zones, and its regulations. So it speaks about how much to build, and what materials to be built, how from the considering the high tide level, and how far we are going from the coast. And but what happens is that as soon we start moving towards the inland, those regulations get faded, and we stop looking things from the broader eyes, like what is happening at the green systems, or the how the forest is, what kind of ecological character it is bringing, how the water is bringing, what and how to regulate it. So that is how that is what is the concern. And to bring it at a micro level, we need to have the idea of the macro level.
Yeah, thank you very much, both of you, for these additional remarks. And I wanted to move to the presentation from Meya Musawi, and I wanted to ask him one or two follow-up questions. The first question to start with, you talked about a car-free day, and I was wondering, how did people respond to that? Was that something easy or something difficult to push through? And then my second question is, what is, in your viewpoint, you are a mayor, the mayor of a district of Tehran, what is the transformative effect that your project has to the entire city? Thank you. Over.
Thank you, Sebastian. About your first question, I should say, because this street was a new street, and in many decades, more than 8 decades, that place was a military base, and people also should go around the military base to go somewhere they want. It was not so difficult, because after we start using this street last year, about a year ago, it was new for the people, and just some people use this street, and it don't have many to traffic, for example, and it was good. But we just in the car free day, we start at the morning with just 2 lane, and other lane was for the cars, and just about 2 or 3 hours we close whole the streets, and it was good. It was good, and people know in Tehran, in everywhere, maybe they close some street for some, for example, executing on some operation in the. It is common, and it was not difficult. But I think I don't know the whole. If I understand your question, your second question. I think it was a start, really a start in the Tehran, for example, when I started using the color in a street. We had another project. I have and some presentation, some international presentation. Another project. It was colorful avenue, and we use the color in a very old avenue, and it is now one of the most important projects in my district and in Tehran. And after that, in Tehran, in Mashhad, in some other cities in Iran, they started using the color. It is, in some cities, for example, South America, they use the color in many years ago. But in Iran, I think it was a start, and some other districts in Tehran, some other mayors in other cities try to do this, and I think it has a good effect. Color is cheap for the leaders of the city, for the municipality, and have a very a good effect in community for the people. For example, when you start this, there were many people who take photos in the street, take photo with this gallery. There were some artists, some young artists that they want to see these things. And for example, in the second, we in Urban Gallery, we use 2 times, and we have 3 episodes, and the third episode haven't take place now. But in 2 episodes we had, at first there was 35 painting, and the second one was more than 60 painting. And in the second episode, there was many artists from whole of the country. For example, we have in some artists from 2,000 kilometers city away from Tehran. For example, from Bushehr. You don't know the cities of Iran. Maybe just Tehran was. Yes, but it was and it can be effective. It continues, I think. I don't know, understand your question, and my answer was good or not.
Yes, no, certainly. I mean, this was exactly what I wanted to know. It's quite interesting, actually, what that you have such huge sort of impact that that actually the street becomes a gallery that features artists from around the country. I think that's quite significant, and that also underlines the importance, that improves the quality of life in cities. Yeah. So, Maya, thank you very much for this initiative, and and also for the presentation here today. And we have just 1 minute left. I wanted to close the session here. Thank you for the presentations from your side. Thank you for the effort today, and also for coping with a few technical issues that we had. And thank you very much for the submissions to the conference I foresee. And yeah, I would like to hereby close the session and wish you a very good, interesting, and pleasant continued conference for the rest of the week. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.